Welcome to the Jeffers Brief, only on Contra Radio Network.
And hello again, John Jeffers here. Got to set my timer because we've got many things I have to do in a certain amount of time. So we are going with it. All right. Anyways, welcome. I am John Jeffers, your host, founder and executive producer here at the Contra Radio Network. And I'm here to host you on the Jeffers Brief. I'm glad you're here. In the meantime, for those of you that aren't sure why you should listen, this is why.
You are being conned on a level unprecedented in human history.
You hear that? You're being conned. We're all being conned. You know, people are so surprised at the way government acts. I'm not, and neither should you. Let's be honest with it, shall we? Can we be honest? Shall we? The fact is, government is the final arbiter of its own power. That's simple. They will decide what their limits are. What are you going to do about it? What can you do about it? I don't know. I don't know what else you could do about it. All right. What else have we got here? So many things. Where do we start? Well, there's lots of stuff we could do. I think you should know this. This is kind of interesting. CNS News is reporting that Sherry Redstone. You're probably saying, who the hell's Sherry Redstone and why do I care? Well, I'm going to tell you why you care. Sherry Redstone is the daughter of 96-year-old billionaire media mogul Sumner Redstone. And who's he? He's the majority shareholder of both CBS and Viacom, as well as majority owner and board chairman of National Amusements. So what is Sherry doing that you say, okay, John, fine, great. Sherry Redstone, she's the current vice chair of both CBS and Viacom, and she's reportedly considering creating a Viacom channel to compete with Fox News. Redstone, who will become chair of Viacom CBS when the two organizations merge, is looking to turn into one of Viacom's current channels into a new conservative-leaning news network, insiders tell The Hollywood Reporter. Redstone has reportedly explored plans for the Fox News alternative in multiple meetings and is looking to headline the network with current and former Fox News stars like Megyn Kelly, according to the article. Well, first of all, Megyn Kelly is a non-starter. She is not a conservative in any way, shape, or form. So that if that's what she's looking on doing, then why bother? You know, just because they label it, well, as conservative-leaning, doesn't really mean it's going to be conservative-leaning. I got to tell you, NBC would love to unload Megyn. Love to. I mean, she took them for huge money. Just thought I'd bring it up. So, I don't know. What's this? What do I have to do now? I don't know. That's gone. Something else, you know, good Lord, I don't even know where to begin half the time, but this whole impeachment thing is really starting to get old. It really is, you know what I mean? So, the incredible vanishing whistleblower, you know, the partisans, well, stop that. Every time we turn around, you know, I don't care about that. No, go away. Go away. I'm kind of cranky today, as you can tell. But the incredible vanishing whistleblower, Brent Bozell III, wrote this, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And I wanted to share it with you. The partisan at the Washington Post pretend in a front-page Sunday News article that somehow President Trump was losing his marbles in rage, going beyond his often untethered bounds. Readers are supposed to be highly disturbed about his mental state after learning he held raucous rally in Minneapolis and said supposedly crazy things like how the Democrats are carrying out a brazen attempt to overthrow our government. I don't think that's crazy. What is this attempt to impeach and remove Trump, if not to overthrow him? Democrats might argue that if Trump were removed, Vice President Pence would remain, and thus there would be a continuum. But does anyone believe Democrats would be satisfied with that? I mean, really. The Post recently published a kooky article laying out how they could take down Pence and make House Speaker Nancy Pelosi president. Pelosi placed House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff in charge of this impeachment attempt, and the whole thing is getting stranger and more secretive by the hour. We got a Star Chamber in the making. First, we were told that an allegedly patriotic whistleblower must testify to underline how Trump committed some kind of impeachable high crime on a phone call with the president of Ukraine. This whistleblower was even present at the scene of the supposed crime. There's an obvious reason why they have obscured this alleged hero's identity. It was reported that he worked with Joe Biden in the White House on Ukraine issues. A story worth explaining? The whole scheme began to look like a Democratic plot, and suddenly the incessant pro-impeachment media went dark on their central figure. His testimony was no longer the piece de resistance, pardon the pun. Susan Ferrecchio at the Washington Examiner noted that Republicans planned to ask this whistleblower all kinds of questions about when he met with Schiff's staff and how they coordinated. But it is appearing more likely Republicans will never have the chance to ask the whistleblower any questions at all about how closely he worked with Schiff's team, she said. Even some of the liberal fact checkers felt pressed to admit Schiff lied when he claimed on national TV that he and his staff never met with this whistleblower. I hate when they use the term whistleblower. This is a rumor monger, not a whistleblower. Clearly, he doesn't want any more questions about how coordinated this impeachment plot is. A GOP source told the Examiner, at some point, both Schiff and the whistleblower came to the conclusion that his personal testimony stands to do more harm than good to both of them. The backpedaling has been furious. Schiff appeared on CBS Face the Nation and said, given that we already have the call record, we don't need the whistleblower, who wasn't on the call, to tell us what took place during the call. Both Schiff and CBS Margaret Brennan agreed the most important priority of this probe is keeping the identity of the whistleblower secret. Without questioning for a moment, how it could be considered fair to the president, who's the subject of the impeachment inquiry? Now imagine, if you will, the Republicans had tried to impeach then President Bill Clinton in 1998 for some phone call he made to a foreign leader, and that they said they had an anonymous whistleblower who never heard Clinton's phone call. The press would have mocked all of this as an enormous waste of time and money and a huge distraction from the legislative business of the people. Their completely different partisan reaction to this only underlines how much collusion goes on between the journalists and the Democrats. They're hard to distinguish from one another. They all use the same talking points and catchphrases. They have a shared goal of impeaching Trump since the day he was inaugurated. There is no balance or fairness in anything the media reports on this brazen attempt to overthrow this administration. And that is true. Is there anything they won't say or do? Is there anything that they won't coordinate on? Don't believe me that they're not coordinating? Do yourself a favor. When you have time, I don't think you should waste your time on it, but if you choose to indulge yourself in this endeavor, check all the local newscasts, check all the national newscasts, and see how many words they use the same, in the same order, in the same way. Talk about collusion. Oh, I don't know. I've had it with it. You know, nobody calls these clowns on what's going on. And when we come back, because I do have to take a break, because we're at our 10-minute mark. In case you're keeping count, it's 10, 12, 12, and 12. There you go. There it is. Now you have it, if you will. So we'll be back in a moment or two. Let me get these in because we do want to be doing the right thing for Contra Radio Network, which is let's get our listenership up and whatnot. And let's make sure we try to make some money to help with operations. We'll be right back after this.
Black Metal Firearms are a couple guys I know personally and friends of mine that put together some great accessories for all your firearms needs. Everything that I've seen them do is just top-notch and very nice looking. BlackMetalFirearms.com. Check them out. I think you'll be glad you did. Go to Facebook, Black Metal Firearms. They got a great page there too. Learn more about the workmanship and the craftsmanship they put into every accessory and every build they do.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Hey, Daniel J. here, and I'm inviting you to tune into my radio show, MLM, The Good, the Bad, and the Truth, here on Contra Radio Network.
Catch Daniel Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
I feel good that I'm keeping myself informed.
The Conservative Underground.
Tune in to the Conservative Underground on the Contra Radio Network, Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
This is Contra Radio Network, internet radio for the discerning prepper and patriot.
Hey folks, guess what the number one phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea! We love this tea! Time after time, week after week, we love this tea! Life Change Tea gives you more energy, a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly. The tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
Talking the issues and taking the hit. The Two Crazy Guys.
Catch the Two Crazy Guys right here on Contra Radio Network, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Welcome to the Jeffers Brief, only on Contra Radio Network.
All right, welcome back. Got our little timer started. Okay. Let us talk about the fraud that continues. And you know what the fraud is, and so do I. What we have is that according to Capitol Hill members via Politico, House Democratic leadership has taken a climate assessment of Democratic House members, and Speaker Pelosi announced they will not hold a House impeachment authorization vote. As a direct and specific consequence, all committee subpoenas do not carry a penalty for noncompliance. A judicial penalty can only be created if the House votes to authorize an impeachment inquiry. Absent a vote, the legislative branch has now established a compulsion authority, also known as judicial enforcement authority, as they attempt to work through their quasi-constitutional impeachment inquiry process. Instead of subpoenas, Schiff, Cummings, Engel can only send out request letters. The compliance is discretionary based on the ideology of the recipient. However, Giuliani and Vice President Pence told them, pound sand, ain't gonna comply, have a nice day. Now it is likely, highly likely, Pelosi does not have the votes to proceed with a full House impeachment authorization. So Pelosi and company have to rely on the duplicity of the media to help them hide their scheme. And so far the media is complying, just like the good little lapdogs that they are. So, Trump, White House official, and Republicans on Capitol Hill have seized on the absence of such a vote as an unacceptable break with House precedent and have vowed to resist with what they describe as an illegitimate probe. Pelosi and other top Democrats could not come to an agreement among themselves during discussions on Monday whether to move forward with a vote, which would have had a dramatic escalation of their impeachment battle with Trump. The House Democratic leaders quietly reached out to the most vulnerable members of their caucus to gauge whether they would support a formal vote to authorize an impeachment inquiry against Trump, according to multiple Democratic aides. House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn, Democrat, South Carolina office, led the outreach effort, and the issue was discussed at a closed-door leadership meeting. The idea has been met with anxiety among some of the battleground Democrats who fear it could distract from the agenda, according to multiple aides. So, Speaker Pelosi and lawfare's impeachment scheme can only succeed with a compliant media protecting it. And so far, the media has been entirely compliant in not explaining the fraudulent basis for the construct. If the media would ask questions, the fraud would collapse. Adam Schiff has to hide his hearings because the foundation of the impeachment fraud is to create a public impression. There is no structural impeachment process or guideline being followed. The committee leadership are using the closed-door hearings to leak information to the media to create the needed narrative. A legislative letter or demand request needs to carry judicial enforcement authority, a penalty, in order to be a subpoena. There is no penalty that can be associated with these demands because the legislative branch has not established compulsion authority as they attempt to work through their non-constitutional impeachment inquiry process. It has long been well established by SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, that Congress has lawful, which is judicial authority, subpoena powers pursuant to its implied responsibility of legislative oversight. However, that only applies to the powers enumerated in A1, Section 8. Neither foreign policy, Ukraine, nor impeachment have any nexus to A1-8. The customary legislative branch subpoena power is limited to their legislative purpose. There is an elevated level of subpoena made possible by SCOTUS precedent that carries inherent penalties for noncompliance and is specifically allowed for impeachment investigations. That level of House authority requires a full House authorization vote. Now, in this current example, the legislative branch is expressing their impeachment authority as part of the legislative branch purpose. So that raises the issue of an entirely different type of subpoena. A demand from Congress that penetrates the constitutional powers. Yeah, I imagine it does. That penetrates the constitutional separation of powers and further penetrates the legal authority of the executive branch, executive privilege. It was separately established by SCOTUS during the Nixon impeachment investigation that if the full House votes to have the Judiciary Committee commence an impeachment investigation, then the Judiciary Committee has subpoena power that can overcome executive privilege claims. Note, there has been no vote to create that level of subpoena power. As a consequence, the House has not created a process to penetrate the constitutionally inherent separation of powers and or the legally recognized firewall known as executive privilege. The House must vote to authorize the committee impeachment investigation, and through that process, the committee gains judicial enforcement authority. This creates the penalty for noncompliance with an impeachment subpoena. And guess what, guys? Is this. Guess who the first witness will be in the Senate trial. Guess who it's going to be? Hunter Biden. Good luck, crackhead. A demand letter only becomes a subpoena, technically meaning a request for the production of documents with a penalty for noncompliance. Now, when the committee has judicial enforcement authority, that process establishes an enforcement penalty. And of course, the current demand letters cannot carry a penalty because the demands do not contain judicial enforcement authority. So there you go. Pelosi and lawfir's plans are designed for public consumption. They are creating the illusion of something that does not exist. The purpose of all this fraudulent impeachment activity is to create support for an actual impeachment process. Because the current lawfare Pelosi roadmap intends to work around judicial enforcement authority, the impeachment process is destined by design to end up running headfirst into a constitutional problem, specifically separation of power and executive privilege. That predictable constitutional issue will end up with arguments to the Supreme Court. That appears to be why the Democrats and left-wing activists have been working for months to delegitimize the Supreme Court. They always intended to run into this problem. They planned for it. The lawfare impeachment roadmap is designed to conflict with the Constitution. It is a necessary and unavoidable feature of their impeachment plan. It's not a flaw. Now, Pelosi and her lawfare allies can change House rules, which they did. Pelosi and lawfare can also change House impeachment rules. They did. Pelosi and lawfare can change committee rules. They did. And in doing so, they can remove House Republicans from the entire process, which they did. However, what lawfare and Pelosi cannot change is the U.S. Constitution, which they are destined to collide with. So Speaker Pelosi's lawfare House rules and or lawfare impeachment rules cannot supersede the constitutional separation of powers. Nancy Pelosi cannot decree an official impeachment inquiry and as a consequence nullify a constitutional firewall between the legislative branch and the executive branch. What do we got here? What is this? Yeah, okay. Here's Steve Scalise. Republican Louisiana is the minority whip in the 1st District of New Orleans. Listen to what he has to say about the process being a total sham. The Dems, look, here's Scalise. Scalise has asked, I'm going to play this clip for you, has asked a Democratic majority a simple yes or no question. Has the House been authorized to conduct an impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump? They refused to even answer the question. They even cut his mic. This is why the process is a total sham. Let's see if we can get it.
Madam Speaker, my parliamentary inquiry is this. Has the House been authorized to conduct an impeachment inquiry into President Trump?
The gentleman is not stating a proper parliamentary inquiry.
Madam Speaker, we ought to know the answer to that question. Madam Speaker, either the House has started a parliamentary impeachment inquiry
House will be in
or it
order.
has not.
Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from California.
That's why it's a total sham. You know it. We know it. They all know it. We all know it. The question is, how dishonest is the mainstream media? We know how much. They're even so dishonest, they were caught this week showing artillery barrage from Syria on Kurdish positions. Now, from Turkey in Syria on Kurdish positions. When it turned out it was some kind of entertainment thing in Kentucky. And yet ABC News came out and said, yeah, this is real. This is what we got. They were caught. And so, yeah, we're sorry. It was a mistake. No, they're only sorry because they got caught. They don't care. They think you're foolish enough. They're helping run the con. They're running the largest con in the history of mankind. And they want to dupe you, my listeners, and every other conservative and patriot in this country into thinking that they're honest and they know what they're doing. They haven't got a clue. Not a clue. And they wonder why we call them fake news. I don't think they care. As long as they got the Democrats and they're the lapdogs and they call the shots, they don't care. As long, and neither should we. As long as we know what the score is, we can fight back. We'll be right back after this.
This is Contra Radio Network, internet radio for the discerning prepper and patriot.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Black Metal Firearms are a couple guys I know personally and friends of mine that put together some great accessories for all your firearms needs. Everything that I've seen them do is just top-notch and very nice looking. BlackMetalFirearms.com. Check them out. I think you'll be glad you did. Go to Facebook, Black Metal Firearms. They got a great page there too. Learn more about the workmanship and the craftsmanship they put into every accessory and every build they do.
Hey, Daniel J. here, and I'm inviting you to tune into my radio show, MLM, The Good, the Bad, and the Truth, here on Contra Radio Network.
Catch Daniel Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hi, this is John Jeffers. Join me for the Jeffers Brief, right here on the Contra Radio Network.
Catch the Jeffers Brief Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Contra Radio Network.
I feel good that I'm keeping myself informed.
The Conservative Underground.
Tune in to the Conservative Underground on the Contra Radio Network, Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Talking the issues and taking the hit. The Two Crazy Guys.
Catch the Two Crazy Guys right here on Contra Radio Network, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Welcome to the Jeffers Brief, only on Contra Radio Network.
All right, we're back. Thanks for sticking around. Hope you're getting as fired up about this as I am. Hey, here's something fun and interesting. How about this, huh? I got a clip I'm going to play for you of Jim Jordan. You got Congressman Meadows, Zeldin, and Jordan. And they all say, I'm not even going to use that word anymore. I'm through with it. The rumor monger has a right to protection, however, no right to anonymity. So Schiff has changed the proceedings from interviews to depositions in an effort to block Republicans from discussing witness testimony. While the minority is blocked from discussing, the Democrats are leaking to the New York Times and the D.C. media as part of the political strategy to frame the impeachment narrative. During an interview on Capitol Hill today, Representative Meadows, Zeldin, and Jordan outlined how the Democrats now want to drop any discussion or use of the rumor monger. Jordan righteously outlines to an antagonistic media how the rumor monger has a right to protection, but no right to anonymity. And meanwhile, today, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State George Kent is participating in a closed-door deposition with House Intel Foreign Affairs and Oversight Reform Committees. So listen to this. You tell me. It's about 3.5 minutes long. I think you'll like it. But it's something that has to be done.
Be answered. I would hope that you all would be pushing for that. Why we don't know who this individual is and can determine the credibility that he or she may have, I think is a fundamental question.
So if you want to speak to John Bolton, do you think there's any court for John Bolton to testify before these committees?
Again, we're getting ready to go into we've had 30 hours of testimony. We're heading into our fourth interview. I assume this will be another 8 to 10 hour day. Each individual offers their own unique and distinct perspective. If Chairman Schiff, if Adam Schiff decides to bring Mr. Bolton in, we'll have questions for him.
Congressman, you talked about the whistleblower, but at this point, it's far more than the whistleblower making these allegations. It's the president's former Russia advisor. It's the president's former Ukraine advisor. You don't think the American people have a right to know the individual who started this process to try to remove the president of the United States 13 months before an election? You don't think the American people have a right to know that? But don't you think that there's a much larger circle of people now who are all saying the same thing? Don't you think we need to know how this all started? The individual who started it all got a readout from the call between President Trump and President Zelensky, writes a memo the next day, uses terms like scary, frightening, crazy, and then waits 18 days to file a complaint. And who's the first person he runs off and sees in that 18-day interim? Adam Schiff's staff. And you don't think the American people have a right to know who that individual is? Come on. I mean, we're talking 330-some million people in this country. We're talking about removing the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, based on that guy's memo, that guy's complaint, who the first people he talked to were Adam Schiff, who's running this closed-door session, this closed-door process. I think the American people would like to know. So you think he has no right to anonymity? He has a right to protection. That's what the whistleblower statute says. It doesn't say anonymity. And I think when you're talking about the President of the United States, for goodness sake, the American people who we all represent, they have a right to know.
Commissioner, do you understand, is he understand that George Kent was subpoenaed to appear here today?
I think he got a subpoena this morning from Mr. Schiff.
You think he did get a subpoena?
I believe he did this morning, just the same process they did yesterday with Dr. Hill.
Congressman, have you heard anything over these hours that concerns you about the behavior of the president?
We can't get into anything there, but what I can tell you is what we can talk about was what happened in Mr. Volker's testimony, which was done under the transcribed interview rules, which are different than the subpoena deposition rules, which have been in effect for the last 2 interviews and, as I just mentioned, are in effect for today's interview. Mr. Volker was clear. No quid pro quo. Mr. Volker confirmed exactly what President Trump and President Zelensky said on the call. No pressure, no pushing, no quid pro quo whatsoever. And Ambassador Volker confirmed that. But again, we can't talk about what took place in the other interviews, even though it seems like the Democrats want to talk about certain things, maybe.
Congressman Kelly, Jenny Hitt said that what is being said in substance, you would be happy, you should be lucky that it's not public, You disagree? You wish it were public?
So we've called for that. We've called for the release of the transcripts all along. We've
Wow.
called for doing this in the open so that the 300 and some million Americans can see what's going on. So we've called for that all along. We got to go. Thanks.
There you go. All right. What else we got here? For my preppers out there, let's talk about an EMP attack and survival. How bad could it be? Well, SHTF Dad sat down and wrote it out. Now, I think let's just start off with the basics. And what is an electromagnetic pulse? An EMP. It's an influx of electrical charge through the atmosphere that settles in conductive surfaces down here on Earth. Simply put, it's a power surge that destroys anything electronic that it passes through. It's an electronic overload like nothing we have ever experienced. Powerful enough to blow up transformers and fry the electronics in every appliance in your home. The massive pulse or power surge is basically unstoppable. There are several possible causes, including the sun in the form of a coronal mass ejection, a CME, a nuclear explosion in the upper atmosphere, or with more local effects, an EMP pulse gun. So therefore, we'll just consider the first two as they have the potential to have the most devastating effects. An EMP attack. Now, the man-made variety of a nuclear EMP, a NEMP, requires a nuclear weapon detonated in the upper atmosphere. The resulting explosion floods the atmosphere with gamma particles. These particles collide with atmospheric atoms, releasing electrons, adding charge to the atmosphere. As the gamma particles play ping pong, they release more and more charged particles. These then go in search of a conductor to take them to ground. Now, this was discovered during the Starfish Prime nuclear test, where a high-altitude nuclear explosion caused EMP-related damage in Hawaii, approximately 900 miles away. The results were similar in the Soviet Union's Project K nuclear test. To pull off an EMP, you need two components, a nuke and a delivery vehicle. Neither need to be very sophisticated. Low-grade nuclear weapons can be used to trigger an EMP. This has long been the concern of military officials regarding the threats like North Korea and Iran. While their capabilities and technologies are limited, currently they could potentially execute something like this just off the U.S. shore. The delivery vehicle does not have to be a long-range monster rocket. Scud missiles, the most widely used available rockets in the world, have the range to hit the optimal altitude for an EMP. In fact, both the U.S. and Iran have tested Scuds at high angles. An EMP attack is a first-strike weapon, which would significantly impact life in the United States. With a shore-launched Scud missile, the warning would only be a few minutes. At least, that's if any warning could be given at all. The second is a coronal mass ejection, a CME, if you will. The CME is similar. However, the source of the cascade of particles is a burst of energy from the sun, most often associated with sunspots. This flow of energy can also come from a gap in the sun's own atmosphere, a coronal hole, if you will. NASA has satellites in place monitoring the sun, giving us a persistent view at our fingertips. The satellites will provide approximately a 5-minute warning for the first impact. However, the main wave of particles from the sun will arrive in 12 hours to 3 days. Now, in 1859, the defining solar storm was the Carrington event. Consequently, the CME caused auroras as far south as Texas and damaged what little infrastructure we had at the time. It is estimated that a Carrington-level event will hit Earth every 150 years. Most recently, in July of 2012, an extremely large solar flare erupted from the sun, missing us due to solar rotation by about 9 days. We would have had 12 to 18 hours notice had this flare exploded 1 week earlier. As a result, it would have taken an estimated 5 to 10 years for us to recover. And I'm thinking that is a very, very conservative estimate. I think it'd be a lot longer than 5 to 10 years to recover. But that's me. What do I know? Let's talk about the EMP effects. Regardless of the source, the overabundance of charge in the atmosphere eventually finds a home down here on Earth, drawn to conductive materials. The charged particles collect on metallic surfaces, big and small, inducing a charge proportional to the size of the conductor. Unfortunately, for our life of modern conveniences, we have surrounded ourselves with items sensitive to extra charge. Our cell phones, cars, radios, TVs, computers are filled with uncountable quantities of microcircuits that are designed to manage thousandths of a watt. Hence, their exposure to charges from an EMP will quickly overwhelm and damage them. Take your vehicle, for instance, complex electrical components at the status quo in modern cars. Shut even one or two vehicles down during your evening commute, traffic comes to a violent end. Even if it could restart, what good will it be in a 100-car pileup? So let's talk about the EMP of the electrical grid. And before we get back there, look, I'm up almost to a hard break. I got about a minute left. But some of you are asking, John, why are you talking about the prepper stuff? Because preppers listen to the show. Because, well, the fact of the matter is, more preppers than patriots actually donate to keep Contra Radio Network functioning and going. And that's just the truth of the matter. And I don't see any problem with throwing out a bone to those that do donate to the show. And that's the way it is. If more patriots gave it, you know what? Right now, I give away more patriot news, the politics of what's going on, than I do the prepper stuff, and that's not right. So I'm going to give more of the prepper stuff. Or at least give them a bone, give them something for their money. Don't you think that's important? I do. All right, then. I'll be back in about a minute or so. Thanks. We'll be right back.
This is Contra Radio Network, internet radio for the discerning prepper and patriot.
Hey, Daniel J. here, and I'm inviting you to tune into my radio show, MLM, The Good, the Bad, and the Truth, here on Contra Radio Network.
Catch Daniel Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Talking the issues and taking the hit. The Two Crazy Guys.
Catch the Two Crazy Guys right here on Contra Radio Network, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
I feel good that I'm keeping myself informed.
The Conservative Underground.
Tune in to the Conservative Underground on the Contra Radio Network, Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger-looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Welcome to the Jeffers Brief, only on Contra Radio Network.
Okay, we're back. Very good. Let us continue with our EMP stuff. So, we're going to talk about the EMP and the electrical grid. The real concern is our electrical grid. For example, crisscrossing the country is uncountable miles of wires shunting electricity from power generation plants to our homes. Each mile is an antenna ready to absorb the EMP and send it to your house to fry anything unplugged, or anything that's plugged in, excuse me. Likewise, the power lines may sag or break due to the extra charge. Now, during the Carrington event, telegraph wires reportedly caught fire due to the induced charge. But wait, there's more. EMPs are equal opportunity offender, taking the power generation plants offline as well as the electric grid's complex network of power transformers. In short, the grid will go down hard and it will stay down. Let's talk about EMP and SCADA. You're going, SCADA? What's that? I'm going to tell you what that is. Now, next in line are the myriad of SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition systems, that keep this country going. From manufacturing to agriculture, we have become dependent on the ability to remotely watch, measure, and control our lives. Indeed, this is the job of SCADA systems. Now, the fuel fed to a power plant, water through a dam, and the critical mix of chemicals in a manufacturing plant all utilize control systems that are vulnerable to EMP. Now, imagine if all that were to shut down. Without control over these systems, some will simply shut down and not restart. That's the best possible outcome. In the worst case, the systems will spiral out of control to a violent and explosive end. How about nuclear plant? This is the outcome of an EMP attack. Now, we have to ask ourselves, how bad can it be? Well, let's look at the aftermath. The first second of an EMP attack. The cascade of electrons race to Earth, congregating on any conductive surface. In long electrical transmission wires, this results in an overwhelming charge passing through wires at near the speed of light into houses, businesses, schools, government centers, and manufacturing facilities. The EMP attack immediately disrupts and destroys any connected, large or small. Surge protectors are slow to combat the ultra-fast charge spike. Furthermore, the surge equally compromises sensitive components in disconnected devices. So power generation plants go into immediate shutdown as components fail. Critical functions in transformers stop and overheat. The United States no longer produces any power. Nuke plants lose the critical infrastructure that controls their rates of chain reaction. Vital heat exchange systems stop working, and the nuclear plant can no longer keep the containment water from boiling off. Now, SCADA systems from horizon to horizon instantly fail, locking their components in their current position. As a result, plant managers lose their ability for rapid response and control. Very, very few fail to a safe position. On the highways, cars, trucks, buses, tractor trailers lose power, roll to a stop. All communication systems, television, radio, telephone, cellular, and all the mighty internet go silent. So bye-bye to everything prepper that's on the web. And all its wisdoms, you're on your own, with the exception of those clever enough to print out all important articles for their emergency binder. People around the United States take notice as the power has just gone out. The first minute after an EMP attack, power is universally off and the U.S. is largely silent. This is a deep breath before the storm. People begin to take notice. By the way, your golden hour is ticking. It's ticking. For those in offices, it's interesting that the UPS backup systems aren't beeping. Elsewhere, all lights are out, and it's strange that the backup lights aren't on. even those that are always on over the emergency exits. The universal thought is, oh, well, I'll pass my time with my cell phone. Wrong answer. Additionally, thousands of feet above the earth, over 3,600 planes are in trouble. Pilots begin procedures to activate their now non-existent redundant control systems. They call on their now defunct radios for air traffic controllers that are no longer there. Passengers lose lights, entertainment systems, and notice that the descent to the airport is happening too early. Hospitals across the country, ICUs go silent. Doctors and nursing staff struggle for composure and control in pitch black operating rooms. Controls at chemical plants, notice all electronic controllers have gone black. The critical manual backup gauges report pressure and temperature valves outside the norm. The staff just aren't looking at them yet because, well, we've never had to. On the highways, there are stalls, fender benders, crashes. Those with good reactions have moved quickly to the side of the road. Those without have crashed and have now irrevocably blocked the roads. Tempers flare, children cry. The first minute ends with a few, truly the minority, checking their phones and the few electronics around them just in case. Now, it's a habit. And this time the results are different. They're going to be very different. 3 minutes after. Homes across the country, not much has changed. Light switches are tried repeatedly. The occasional TV and computer is smacked. Teens yell out to mom or dad about their cell phone battery that just went dead. For those who check their phones, both landlines and cell phones are dead. I disagree with that. I don't believe landlines run on the same electrical current and therefore will not be impacted by an EMP. I could be wrong, though. Aside from the occasional scuffle between road ragers, the roads are at a complete standstill. Meanwhile, back in the office, it's no different. Cubes go quiet. Employees head to IT departments and facility managers to get the scoop on when they get their deadline and their TPS reports going. Bus stations, train stations, airports, travelers head to customer support desks to check the status of their planes. When miles above, the very same planes start a terminal spiral to the ground. Without the ability to control their critical dance, chemical manufacturing plants show overt signs of critical escalation. While in hospital, patients in trauma surgery and other sensitive operations begin to die. 10 minutes. You're starting to realize this is not a regular outage. Preppers have now checked multiple systems and have started to execute their plans to improve their current position. They may be making an excuse to leave work, pulling out their bug-out bag and walking home. For the most fortunate who are home, beginning preparations for the big bug-out. They know what's coming. They are praying they are wrong, but they know what's going to get worse. For those in the cube farms and homes across the U.S., this is still just another outage. Remember, the golden hour is ticking. Things get critical in the operating rooms. Emergency lights, if any, that can be used, will be. Patients are stabilized, eventually moved out of the operating theater. In shopping center, things are getting tense as electronic payment systems go down, including your EBT benefits. That's welfare for the rest of us. Tensions rise in chemical and nuclear plants. Processes are not shutting down properly, and from what can be seen, that's not much. Things are getting critical. Experts are consulted, opinions differ, manuals are consulted, nothing is done. 1 hour after the EMP attack. Oh, I would love to get... You know what? I'm going to go as far as I can with this, because I am running out of time. An hour past the EMP attack, the golden hour is done. The real eye-opener is the lack of news. For the vast majority of Americans, no news, internet down, cell phones down, no TV, no radio. There is little disconcerting, and the sheep are leaving their homes to talk to each other. There may be one or two reasonable voices in the mix, but they go largely unheard. For the few inside air travel corridors where planes have crashed, the situation is far from normal. With no way of spreading the word, the situation goes unreported and the crisis stays local. No help. In the hospital's efforts to turn to triage with no power, the only hope is to distribute what little help that is available to those that can survive the situation. The first explosions happen at chemical plants. Without communications, neighboring communities have no way of knowing a toxic cloud is heading their way. There are no planes in the sky, and it is eerily quiet. 12 hours. Half day since the EMP attack and life is tense. Refugees from the roads have walked to the nearest exit to the nearest convenience store. In some cases, they will flock to the only house that can be seen from the road. Dozens of people congregating on the doorstep of an otherwise remote property. In the worst cases, they are tired, injured, and demanding, mind you, assistance in the form of information, food, water, and lodging. Some on the roads never complete the trip. Not being used to take more than the short, leisurely stroll, their heart wasn't up for off-roading it across the median up the first hill. They can't make it. I've told you this. The hospital morgues are full, and the staff is starting to wear thin. What is this? What is this? You will come back. You will not do this to me. My timer. Okay. Their heart and their hopes have given out. Oh, where are we? Law enforcement is spread thin or non-existent in cities. The criminal element starts to take notice while most of the entitled EBT holders await the straw that breaks the camel's back. And it comes at sundown. Nuclear facilities are dependent upon power to shut down, start to fail. The staff recognizes this and attempts to leave. Remember Fukushima? They had an ocean to cool the reactors. Most power plants don't, and for this we will suffer. 24 hours. It's been a day since the first sign of the EMP attack in rural and suburban America. Things are largely the same. Most households have not missed a meal. Several have grilled the steaks from the warming fridge and ate the ice cream in a rapidly warming freezer. In the cities, the undercurrent of violence is spreading. Rumors of sporadic pockets of crime present themselves. However, without mass communication on the internet to fuel the fire, or in some circumstances coordinate the fires, these pockets remain isolated. The migration to health centers is well underway. The arrival of family members that are too far gone, they arrive with those who have no right being in the situation as their injuries are minor. The ones that can truly be helped get lost in the shuffle. First arguments, then scuffles, and finally brawls close to the hospitals, off to those that they could save. All right. I am going to finish this because this is important. That's why. So next week, in fact, I'm bookmarking the page now, because this is how important it is. Until next week, I'm John Jeffers here at the Jeffers Brief. Thanks for listening.
Hey folks, guess what the number one phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea. We love this tea. Time after time, week after week, we love this tea. Life Change Tea gives you more energy, a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly. The tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
I feel good that I'm keeping myself informed.
The Conservative Underground.
Tune in to the Conservative Underground on the Contra Radio Network, Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, Daniel J. here, and I'm inviting you to tune into my radio show, MLM, The Good, the Bad, and the Truth, here on Contra Radio Network.
Catch Daniel Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Talking the issues and taking the hit. The Two Crazy Guys.
Catch the Two Crazy Guys right here on Contra Radio Network, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hi, this is John Jeffers. Join me for the Jeffers Brief, right here on the Contra Radio Network.
Catch the Jeffers Brief Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Contra Radio Network.
This is Contra Radio Network, internet radio for the discerning prepper and patriot.